Hey there, it's Anne. In this video, I'm going to show you two essential words, one essential phrase that you can use when you are expressing contrast. These are very, very useful anytime you're writing an essay or a paragraph and you're writing about contrasts. Let me show you what they mean and how they work in your sentences. So the first one we're going to look at is whereas. Whereas. Let me read you the example. There is a dramatic difference in pay between dentists and their assistants. The average yearly salary for a dentist in the United States is $180,000, whereas a dental assistant's yearly income is $39,000. So I am contrasting two things, the salary of the dentist, the salary of the dental assistant. I want to show you that these are different. And I'm using the word whereas. This is a connector which specifically indicates this, a difference between two things. Notice that it's coming here in the middle of a sentence after a comma. Let's look at another example. The cities of Washington, D.C. and New York are very different. Whereas New York is known as a leader in culture and business, Washington, D.C. is primarily important because it is the center of the United States government. So here I am contrasting two cities, New York, Washington, D.C., and I'm talking about how they're different. One is famous for one thing, it's famous for culture and business, and the other is famous for something different, government. So I'm showing you that these two ideas about these two cities are different, and I'm using the word whereas to highlight this difference. Here, I'm using it at the beginning of the sentence. So you can use whereas at the beginning or in the middle. So let's look at how it works at this sentence level. So I can use whereas in the middle like this. A dentist earns $180,000 a year, comma, whereas a dental assistant earns $39,000. Or I can use whereas at the beginning like this. Whereas a dentist earns $180,000 a year, comma, a dental assistant earns $39,000. These two sentences mean exactly the same thing. So you can just choose which one you like to use and you can write it like that. This is not correct. Whereas a dentist earns $180,000 a year. Notice in the first two good sentences, I was using whereas to connect two ideas. In the last sentence, I only have one idea. So this one is not correct. Let's look at the word while. Good news, it means exactly the same thing as whereas, and the grammar is also the same. So here's my example. While it is possible to earn a lot of money when you invest in the stock market, it is also possible to lose a lot of money. Some teachers permit students to use cell phones in the classroom, while other teachers forbid the use of cell phones. So while, again, connects two contrasting ideas into one single sentence. And when you begin your sentence with while, you're going to use a comma at the end of the first clause. You will not use a comma after the word while. I see a lot of students do this and it's a mistake. So the comma does not go here after while, it goes at the end of the very first clause. Now, if you are going to use while in the middle, which you certainly can do, and it means the same thing, you are going to use a comma in front of while. And this is sometimes a little tricky because when we are using while to mean contrast, we use a comma. When we are using while to talk about time, we do not use a comma when it's in the middle of the sentence. Why do we have different rules for commas depending on how we use while? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. But when you're using while to express contrast, and while is in the middle of the sentence, you will use a comma. So now let's look at on the other hand. This is a very useful expression when you are presenting two sides of something. So let me give you an example here. Here's the background. If you are learning a foreign language, there are benefits to having a native speaker teacher or a teacher who, like you, is not a native speaker. Okay, so I'm comparing two things, native speaker teacher and not a native speaker teacher. A native speaker teacher can demonstrate perfect English pronunciation. On the other hand, a teacher who has learned English himself can be an excellent model for students of a successful language learner. So I am presenting one side, and then when I'm ready to present my other side, I use on the other hand. Again, it shows contrast. Let's look at a shorter example. My brother was always a good athlete. I, on the other hand, struggled with sports. So I'm showing you some difference or some contrast here. A lot of times people like to use these two expressions together. On one hand, on the other hand. You don't have to use on one hand in order to use on the other hand. But if you start with on one hand, then you need to finish with on the other hand. And you have to stop at 2 because we only have 2 hands. So let me give you an example of how these two work together. On one hand, having a cell phone in the car can help you be safe. You can use your phone to access maps, and you can call for help if you have an emergency. On the other hand, cell phones can be dangerous and might even cause you to have an accident if you are looking at the phone instead of the road. So when I'm presenting these contrasting opinions or contrasting points here, I can begin one with on one hand, and I can begin the opposite with on the other hand. People have a lot of problems getting this exactly right, and it needs to be exactly right. So this phrase is on the other hand, 4 words, on the other hand. It's not this one, on other hand, or this one, in the other hand, or this one, on another hand, or on other hands, or in another hand, nothing like that. You have to be very careful that you use it exactly like this, on the other hand. A couple of other things to remember. Like I said, it shows contrast. For example, dentists earn approximately $180,000 a year. On the other hand, in contrast, dental assistants earn almost $40,000. You are going to use a comma after hand. On the other hand, comma, dental assistants earn almost $40,000. And here's what's different about this one than while and whereas. You are only going to use on the other hand in a sentence with one of your ideas, like this. On the other hand, comma, dental assistants earn almost $40,000. It is not a conjunction that joins 2 ideas in a single sentence. Think about it more like an introductory transitional phrase that you can use at the beginning of your sentence in front of your one point. So you are going to use it in the beginning of the sentence, the very first things that you write in the sentence, or you can use it between your subject and a verb like this. So the first one, on the other hand, dental assistants earn almost $40,000, or you can write it like this. Dental assistants, comma, on the other hand, comma, earn almost $40,000. And that's a very elegant way that you can use this phrase as well. So for more different words that you can use to express contrast, check out this video or check out one of these videos for how you can write compare or contrast essays. So check out this video if you'd like to learn a little bit more about different phrases you can use for comparing and contrasting, or check out this video if you're interested in writing a compare or contrast essay. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.